Today we'll be talking about the American Revolution and some of the key points.
We'll be talking about the Treaty of Paris, 1783. Of course, it occurred in 1783, but the reason for the treaty was to end the American Revolution. The treaty was signed by John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, who was one of the American commissions in France who negotiated the Treaty of Paris with Great Britain, and John Jay, who also helped with the negotiation. The economic impact was that Great Britain recognized the 13 colonies for the first time as independent. And then Florida went to Spain, France gained some African and Caribbean colonies. And the political impact is pretty much that Britain recognized 13 colonies and the land distribution. This topic impacted the American Revolution as it basically ended all of the wars that occurred in the time period. In January 1776, the Common Sense pamphlet by Thomas Paine was published. He published the pamphlet to convince the colonists that they could be independent and did not need the British rule. It was greatly impactful as over 100,000 copies were shared along the colonies, so it changed the way the colonists actually saw their king. It helped show that they didn't need a great big military and that they would do fine with military self-defense. The way that the Common Sense pamphlet impacted the American Revolution was it played a big role in the rebellion against the king. On July 8, 1775, the Olive Branch Petition was adopted by the Second Continental Congress. The Olive Branch Petition, was for that the colonists did not want to go back to war with Britain, so they made the Olive Branch Petition. So they presented it to Congress, and it was soon adopted. John Dickinson, he actually wrote the Olive Branch Petition that was presented. King George refused to read the petition on August 23rd and proclaimed that the colonists had proceeded to open a void revolution. The king, since he refused to read the petition, nothing really ultimately changed, as if he had read it, some major differences would have actually occurred.
Saratoga, or the Battle of Saratoga, took place on September 19th and ended on October 17th, 1777. There were two battles lasting for 18 days. After the two victories, the French and other European countries started to believe in the colonies that they could win the war, and this is why this battle was so important. It was actually called the turning point in the war. So after everybody started having faith in the colonies, the French decided to hand over their navy and help out, and even some of their generals. So the key people were John Stark, who captured over 500 German soldiers in the first Battle of Saratoga, and General Schuyler, who burned all the British supplies in the line of their advance. Yorktown, or the Siege of Yorktown, started September 28th and ended October 19th, 1781. George Washington led 17,000 troops into the Siege of Yorktown against British General Lord Charles Cornwallis, who only had 9,000 troops. They eventually cornered him into Yorktown, where he eventually surrendered, and that was known as the end of the Revolution. The Declaration of Independence was written July 4th, 1776. It was written because the British were taking away the civil liberties and the rights of the colonists. The colonists, to the point where the colonists started to self-govern themselves. So they wrote this document to tell the British what they were doing wrong and to finalize that they were going to secede from Britain. The main people who wrote the document was Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, and John Adams, but over 56 people signed the Declaration of Independence.
Valley Forge, 1777 through 1778, served as the site of the Continental Army's camp during the winter of 1777 through 1778. It was at the Valley Forge winter camp where George Washington proved himself, and with the help of the former Prussian military officer Friedrich Wilhelm Baron von Steuben, This 6-month encampment turned the battered Continental Army into a unified world-class fighting force capable of beating the British, with of course the help of Friedrich von Steuben, the Prussian military officer. Lexington and Concord, April 19th, 1775. The King's troops reached Lexington. As they neared the town, they saw 70 Minutemen draw up in lines. The British commander ordered them to leave. The colonists began to move out without laying down their arms. Their muskets and their swords fired, and the British militia sent a volley of shots in the departing Minutemen. 8 Minutemen were killed and 10 wounded, but only 1 British soldier was wounded. The Battle of Lexington lasted only 15 minutes. The British then marched on to Concord, where they found an empty arsenal. After a brief skirmish with the Minutemen, the British soldiers lined up to march back to Boston. The march soon became a slaughter, however, when 3,000 to 4,000 Minutemen assembled and fired on the marching British troops from behind by stone walls and trees. Humiliated, the remaining British troops made their way back to Boston. Washington crossing the Delaware. December 25th through the 26th, 1776, was the first surprise attack organized by George Washington against the Hessian German mercenaries forces in Trenton, New Jersey. On the morning of December 26th, Washington led the Continental Army across the icy Delaware River.
Confederation, 1781 through 1789. This served as the written document that established the functions of the national government of the United States after declared independence of Great Britain. The Articles of Confederation contained 13 articles and a conclusion. The Articles of Confederation allowed only state government to levy tax. Land Ordinance of 1785, May 20th. This was adopted by the United States Congress of Confederation on May 20th, 1785. This was a system where farmers could purchase farmland in the undeveloped West. This law helped to organize the sale of Western lands. Western lands were divided into townships that were 6 miles wide and 6 miles long. This affected slavery by stopping it from spreading. Northwest Ordinance of 1787, July 13th. This is considered one of the most important legislative acts of the Confederation Congress. It protected civil liberties and, most importantly, prohibited slavery in the new territories, which kept it from spreading. And the Northwest Ordinance of 1787 was passed by the U.S. government under the Articles of Confederation to create the Northwest Territory out of land gained by Great Britain.